The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life: your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquia, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this? It's my new teeth. It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Theo Chikomba in the GB newsroom. There are calls for calm as protesters clash with police after 3 children and a woman were stabbed in Dublin. Our reporter Doogie Beattie has more.
There has been a lot of criminal damage done on shops. There is also toilets burnt, a police car burnt, but the police are coming up the street and they're forcing them up as they go, trying to retake ground, and batons are drawn, and we must say that the things through the night here are getting heavier and heavier. This all started off at about 1:30 today when a young girl was stabbed along with 2 other children and a woman. And this has been brewing in Dublin for some time. Locals in this city are very much against the massive amount of immigration that has come in here, and they are now seen to be showing their frustration.
13 hostages held by Hamas are due to be released tomorrow. A spokesperson from Qatar Foreign Ministry said the first group of civilians will be released at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, with a truce due to start at 7 a.m. local time. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Forces said they killed a commander of the Hamas naval forces in Khan Yunis. Officers are appealing for dashcam footage following the crash that killed 4 teenagers in North Wales. Jevon Hurst, Harvey Owen, Wilf Fitchett and Hugo Morris were on a camping trip in North Wales. Their bodies were recovered on Tuesday after a car was found overturned and partially submerged in water. North Wales Police says it appears to have been a tragic accident. Police are asking anyone who has been travelling on the A4085 in Gwynedd between Sunday and Tuesday for information. Downing Street says more measures could be introduced to curb net migration. It comes as new figures showed that legal immigration to the UK hit a record of 745,000 in the year to December. Most estimates suggest immigration is now slowing, while the number of people leaving the UK is going up. Energy bills are expected to rise after the energy regulator announced a 5% increase to the price cap. From January, the average household will pay around £94 more over the course of a year. Ofgem says the increase is mostly driven by market instability and global events. The Prince of Wales took part in the mock assault on Salisbury Plain earlier. Prince William threw smoke grenades from a Warrior armoured vehicle as he joined a simulated attack on an enemy position. The exercise formed part of the future King's first visit to the 1st Battalion of the Mercian Regiment as the Colonel-in-Chief. This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car on digital radio, and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. Now it's time for the headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and joining me tonight to go through Friday's papers are two top comedians. We've got Josh Howie and Leo Kearse. And Josh has gone for a camouflage look here tonight.
Yes,
with a
only
blue jacket.
I just wanted to be a bald head on a blue background.
Yeah, like Holly in Red Dwarf.
Yeah, exactly. I will speak like this and be very dry.
Very good. I'm very happy. Now, we're going to kick off by having a look at the front pages first. So Friday's Times is leading with migration figures pile pressure on PM to act. The Telegraph is running with cabinet pressure on Sunak to slash migration. The Guardian revealed how the King secretly profits from the dead. We'll be talking about that in a bit. The Express has failure to halt migration is slap in the face for the public. The Eye is running with cabinet battle on UK's migrant care workers. And finally, the Daily Star. Whoops-a-daisy, apparently boffins have created the Terminator. And those were your front pages. Right, we're going to kick off with Friday's Times. Josh, trouble in Dublin.
Trouble in Dublin. Two big stories here. Yes, first of all, Dublin street violence after knife attack on children. This was happened today, about 1:30 in the afternoon. I believe a 5-year-old girl, a 5-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl and 2 adults were stabbed by a man. Doesn't say in this article here, doesn't say in The Guardian, doesn't say in the BBC, but I believe it was an Algerian man.
Well, actually, it's the person of interest that the police are looking at is potentially, or has been suggested to be an Algerian man.
Yeah.
He's in hospital at the moment, so we just don't know.
Don't know where he's from.
No.
But that has kicked off.
Yes.
And anyone seen the footage, it's looking like a pretty gnarly place to be at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the footage is looking troubling. This is the thing, Leo. Once people start protesting and then they start looting and they start breaking windows and stealing things, it stops being about whatever the protest was about, right?
Yeah, but I think it's a minority of people who are looting, and people have been quick to focus on that in a way that they didn't when the Black Lives Matter protests were going on, which come from an equal sense of grievance. And
I mean, they should have focused on that too, really, at that time. I mean,
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, this has been bubbling away in Ireland for a while. There have been protests. There have been, quite civilised protests, as well as there have been other protests where fireworks have been thrown and things like that.
Yeah.
But the government and the police have done absolutely nothing to deal with the root cause of the problem, which is just mass, unvetted immigration from really culturally distant places to a small island.
So the quotation here, and it is a quotation, they're talking about a far-right mob. Is that, you don't think that's a fair reflection of what's going on?
I mean, this is ridiculous. So I believe he's the head of the police in Dublin, Harris. He came out and he said, a complete lunatic faction driven by far-right ideology.
Yeah.
I don't think it's far-right to be opposed to children, 5-year-olds being stabbed.
We should be clear, that is the police officer saying that, not the Times. The Times hasn't called them far-right.
Yeah.
But Josh, I mean, if these are legitimate concerns about migration, and it's this kind of thing that tips it over. But of course, at the moment, we don't know the motive behind the attack. We don't know what's really happened there, but that this has just kind of created the scenario by which people's patience has has expired, basically.
This is not an isolated incident in that. I mean, what I'm saying is the concern over migration has been very much ongoing in Ireland for a while now.
Yes.
We don't know whether these people are far right or not, but, you know, the video footage I've seen, they're definitely thugs. There are a lot of thugs there. I'm not saying everybody there is driven by thugs.
No, but
there's a lot of people with their faces covered and...
But isn't it fair to say
COVID restrictions.
Yeah, but isn't it fair to say that when sensible politicians fail to address
they've ignored
these issues, people do get driven to the far right? I mean, I was in Sweden recently. I can't believe some of the stories I was told there about grenades going off down the road in Stockholm, gang violence, and all because no one's had a sensible discussion because they were too afraid of being called racist.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people in the West, you know, in Ireland, in the UK, and other places, are happy to have immigration, but it's got to be vetted, and it's got to be not just anybody from anywhere.
Or indeed that assimilation is sort of part of it, isn't it? You know, and isn't it kind of racist to sort of hold immigrants to lower standards in terms of the way that they ought to behave?
Well, according to the BBC, ancient Britons were multiracial. So, you know, how can we possibly be being racist against anybody when we are that person?
OK, well, let's move on to the next paper now. This is Friday's Telegraph. Still on immigration. Leo?
Yes, this is closer to home. So there's cabinet pressure on Sunak to slash migration. So there are demands for a cap on foreign NHS and care worker visas as numbers hit record highs. We've heard that there are 745,000 net migration.
Yeah.
But obviously, a lot of people, hundreds of thousands of Britons, leave. I'm not surprised. I feel like joining them. But a lot of people leave. So the gross migration in a year is 1.2 million, which is just, I mean, that's mind-blowing. You can't have a 2% of the population just like coming in and having that sort of...
Well, is that
that's 2 years, isn't it?
It's 2 years, but it is still... It's the pace of it. I mean, to go back to Sweden, you know, in Malmö at the moment, apparently more than 50% of the people who live in Malmö were not born in Sweden. Now, I don't think any country can really cope with that extent of migration so quickly unless there is a very serious attempt to assimilate.
Yeah, well, what we're talking about here, someone says it's for 2 years it's equivalent of Birmingham or something.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's up higher than it was. It's up to 745,000 this year. It's a record high, but those figures that's legal migration, and it's driven by two things, which are students, which we need because they subsidise our universities, and by healthcare workers and social workers in terms of like helping people at old people's homes.
Right, so there should be more nuance, you're saying, when we look at who is exactly included.
Exactly. In this particular case, what's driving up, those are the two biggest figures that are driving up.
A lot of student visas are given to people as a way of gaming the system. I did it when I went and lived in Canada. I applied for a student visa and then went and worked.
I'm not saying there aren't. I'm not saying there aren't loopholes, but the fact is that
okay, well, what about,
they do
can I ask you
subsidise
both then, what about Suella Braverman has basically hit out at Sunak over these figures. Now, she suggested, she said she had proposed an annual cap on migration. She said we could raise the minimum salary that foreign workers must earn, prevent foreign students from remaining after their courses end. So rather than not allowing them in, prevent them from retaining their citizenship afterwards, and a cap on health and social care visas. Does this not seem like a reasonable...
Well, she's talking about turning up to £45,000 a year, the income that you would need.
Be the... Yes.
Which is, I think, in the top 10% of earners and stuff, which means, of course, they pay more taxes.
Yes.
The question, as Leo said, it's about who's coming over. I don't think we're going to... If we've got 750,000 multi-millionaires coming over who aren't jihadis...
people aren't going to complain about that.
It's also about rebalancing the economy. So Suella's plans would mean there'd be more middle-class immigrants coming over, so they wouldn't be sort of undercutting the labour market and putting people...
Well, they have to do something, because these numbers are, I think, whether you're on the left or the right or whatever, these numbers are just unsustainable. You know, so even Labour are saying they're going to have to deal with it.
But what Leo says about undercutting the labour market, at the moment, the minimum wage that you need to come in is about 25,000. It's lower than the sort of 34,000 that's the average income for this country. The reason why it's lower is because we want people to come over and pay them less, to take care of our grandparents, to pay them less money.
45 would exclude a lot. 45,000 would exclude a lot of those people.
And the fact is, if we're not willing to wipe the bottoms of our elderly ourselves...
But we need to rebalance the economy so that becomes a better paid job.
No, I agree with you. I'm just saying that's the situation why it is. It means that we would have to pay more to house our elderly and whatnot. We have to pay for that money to come from somewhere.
They can work it out themselves.
All right, let's move on now to the front cover of The Guardian. Josh, what are they leading with?
They have got, yes, also cabinet pressure on Sunak to slash migration. They have, Guardian, yes.
Yeah, they've got this big story about the king.
Yeah, this is a big deal. Revealed how the king secretly profits from dead citizens' assets.
That sounds chilling to me.
It's very chilling. So when you die in, I believe it's Lancashire, yeah.
Is that what you have to do?
And in Cornwall, but now...
Oh, if you die in Lancashire.
If you die in Lancashire, and Cornwall as well, but he already owned Cornwall in that way.
Yeah.
If you don't have anybody who inherits, you don't have a will, your assets will go to... Now, normally, anywhere else, it'll go to the state, to the Treasury. But in Lancashire and Cornwall, it goes to the king or the crown.
Yes.
And the idea is, and they've said before, but we take that money and we give it to charity. And it's not, it turns out it's not as easy as... What they do is they actually use that money, most of it, the bulk of it, to... improve their own holdings, like their own buildings and whatnot, the stuff that they rent out to the public.
Isn't this like Major Tom's daughter?
I don't know
what you mean that she exploited.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or this is this is the BLM business model right here.
Well, except I mean,
in fairness, he's a king. He's supposed to steal money from.
But he's not really. I mean, the headline implies that he's sort of plotting and sort of he's got this sort of Machiavellian scheme.
And he sits in a big pile of gold coins.
Exactly.
But
Scrooge McDuck.
He might well do that.
It looks like this is one of these ancient laws where he's inadvertently benefiting. It's not as evil as the headline.
Inadvertently became king.
Yeah, he could repeal it, couldn't he? He's the king.
Yeah, but maybe this is the first he's heard of it. Hopefully, maybe
when he heard about it, he was like, "Oh, I quite like this."
Well, maybe he reads the Guardian, and from now on he will change his evil ways. Maybe. All right. Well, let's go on to this next paper. This is going to be the Star. Sorry, the Daily Star. Now, the Daily Star often likes to use the phrase boffins.
Yes.
And it often appears on the front cover. What have the boffins done now?
So the Daily Star is the only paper keeping the word boffin alive. They've accidentally, or might have accidentally created killer Terminator robots. I think the word might is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, to be honest.
Okay.
There's not really much more information.
There's not much more information.
There is a serious story there about there was a fly was found in an intestine.
Oh, that's in the bottom left of the paper.
Bottom left of it. That is
we can't get
the
into
most
that.
Disgusting thing.
I love the way you just passed over the killer robots for a fly in an intestine.
If I had a choice between fly in my intestine or killer, I'd go with killer robots. I'd prefer that.
Because you'd have a chance against the killer robot.
Yeah, the fly thing in the intestine.
You can't do anything. No, that's horrendous. Well, I've made this warning many times about AI and how it's going to be our
And people aren't heeding you. They're not listening to you,
No one's
Andrew.
listening to me.
Next book, I think.
You're too right. OK, so those are the front pages sorted. But coming up, we're going to be talking about the Tory party reaching new lows, another mysterious virus from China, and the Netherlands, which has a new leader. See you in a moment.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with you three.
Ah!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you.
every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other pay-per-review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only three people you can trust in life: your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquia, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this? It's my new teeth. It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers with me, Andrew Doyle, and comedians Josh Howie and Leo Kerr. So we're kicking off this section with The Independent now. Shock result in the Netherlands election. Leo, you've got this.
Yeah, nobody saw this coming. So the far-right Geert Wilders may follow the UK and lead a Dutch exit from the EU after winning, and winning big. He won 37 seats, which is well ahead of the next biggest winner, it was the joint Labour-Green ticket who won 25 seats, and the Conservative People's Party won 24 seats.
Yes.
And he's been criticised for, some of his views and policies seem to be unpalatable.
Well, he wants to ban mosques.
He wants to ban mosques. I think in Italy they've already got a ban on the construction of new mosques.
Right.
But I think he wants to
the Quran,
which is very different to Britain, where we fund them and help them radicalise. We fund radical
but of course,
imams.
not all mosques have radical imams trying to radicalise people.
No, but some of them do, and I think we need to keep tabs on it and maybe not fund
Give
like the Green Lane Mosque in Birmingham.
So, Josh. This is, again, coming back to what we spoke about earlier, which is that when people fail to address the issues, the far right becomes popular.
Yeah.
And this guy actually is far right. It's not like the Argentinian leader, Javier Milei.
Anybody who gets in,
they call him far right, and he isn't. This is actually someone who is.
He seems like the real deal. I'm very confused here because the Dutch refers to the Netherlands.
OK, Josh, yes, we've spoken about this before.
OK.
The Dutch people are from the Netherlands.
The Danish?
That's a different country. Don't get me started on Holland.
The worrying thing here is the other parties, even though he was the biggest winner by a long margin, the other parties are talking about creating some sort of cordon sanitaire, which basically means stealing an election result.
Well, this is the thing, though, because of the nature of Dutch politics, there has to be a coalition, because this is simply not sufficient. Even if you win big, you've still got to fill the rest of those seats. The other parties seem to be saying that they don't want a coalition with this man, and they can do that. That's the problem, isn't it? They could do that.
But I think someone's saying that they will. I mean, it will happen.
You think?
Yeah, but no. To go back seriously to your point,
but then people will lose all faith in democracy.
Oh yeah, they're terrible, and then they'll vote in the far right.
Go on.
This does need to be dealt with, and this is exactly why we need our politicians in this country to look at this and be brave and start actually discussing this like adults. There are issues, as you're saying. There are mosques in this country, many mosques, not just one mosque, many mosques, where they are literally calling for the death of Jews, for the death of people and we are paying for it. It's mental.
Yes.
It makes this stuff, we need to talk about it without it being accusations of, Islamophobia.
But that's the problem, is, when there was a cross-party investigation, but an attempt to identify and define Islamophobia.
Well, it's not a real word.
Exactly. They were talking about all sorts of strange things.
Yeah.
Like, even criticism of Islam effectively became a form of Islamophobia, but you have to be able to criticise all religious beliefs.
Of course. There's anti-Muslim bigotry, but Islamophobia is a term that was created created by Islamic fundamentalists deliberately to muddy the waters for exactly this purpose. So any criticism of anything to do with Islam is Islamophobia.
They conflate the idea of like an idiot who pulls someone's hijab off or puts bacon on a mosque door or something stupid like that. They conflate that with someone who just says they have some reservations about the treatment of women in Islam, say, for example.
Exactly,
That sounds very Islamophobic. The other issue is that so the Netherlands have really clamped down on the farmers because of EU climate change rules, and that was hugely unpopular. So it probably isn't about his anti-immigration stance. It's probably more about his pro-farmer stance.
Well, he wants to get out of the EU, right? But I mean, isn't he suggesting that there isn't really an appetite to do that?
He's saying no immigration whatsoever. He's calling for an absolute halt to all.
OK, well, we will monitor that as it develops. We're going to move on to the Telegraph now, and journalists at the BBC accused of favouritism, Josh.
Yeah, this is a little role reversal here. You've got BBC reporters accuse it of favouritism towards Israel, which is very, very...
the other way around?
Because we just had the guy who used to run the BBC just said the other day that the BBC News is basically anti-Semitic and is being harmed through its unbalanced reporting. But you've got here 8 BBC journalists, UK-based journalists, who have written to Al Jazeera. That just shows how impartial they are, of course, going to Al Jazeera, ignoring the fact you had Jeremy Bowen the other day on the BBC basically saying, oh, they found a bunch of... it's normal to find lots of Kalashnikovs in hospitals, and they called it the militants. Do you see the hospital? Then they were sort of saying about how they called it the targeting. They said, with their target, they switched the words around and they said targeting instead of.
They were talking about Arab speakers and medical staff, and they said that the IDF were targeting them
instead of
as opposed to
including.
It's the exact opposite. But they did apologise for that. We should say they absolutely did.
No, they did apologise, but there's just been so many. There's been so many things that Israel is their equivalent of a comedy show, like a sketch show, have been able to do all these very funny sketches showing how BBC are
But Josh,
bias.
It's a big hospital. Like, you're going to come across a few Kalashnikovs in a building that big.
Exactly.
There's some around the corner in the green room.
Surely it was a bad idea to build a hospital on Hamas tunnels.
Well, that would have been the issue, Josh, I mean, it is difficult, though, to defend the BBC for a moment, because actually, whatever they do get accused of bias in one way or the other. I mean, for years and years, you've had left-wingers saying it's right-leaning and right-wingers saying it's left-leaning. Because of the necessity for them to be impartial, it is kind of hard, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, this isn't a sort of a cross-party group looking at this. This is 8 BBC reporters who
are they from the BBC?
That's what I'm saying. They are, It's anonymous,
they are. 8 BBC reporters, and I'm not saying they're anti-Semitic, but I do know that some BBC reporters have been anti-Semitic.
OK. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad you didn't name names there. Let's move on now to the Mirror. Home Secretary James Cleverly has denied making a controversial remark. We're not going to say the controversial remark because of Ofcom, but what do you think of this?
So Tory James Cleverly says he's sorry for calling an MP poop. You use the word, the more harsher word, but denies calling Stockton a poop hole. So he was heard in Parliament calling Stockton. People thought he was calling Stockton a poop hole, which made poop holes around the world very upset that they were being compared to Stockton.
I've never been to Stockton. Is it that bad?
No, it's probably a really nice place. I don't know why I'm slating it. But it's not a good look for the Tories at the moment.
No.
They won the Red Wall from Labour across the north, and they need to cling on to those seats. And they're not going to do it by saying that they're poop holes.
They're not. I mean, this is a bit like when Emily Thornberry put out that picture of the white van and made some really snobbish comment. You thought, you don't hold on to voters by insulting them. This is politics 101. Why can't they get this?
Well, they can't. I mean, although it seems like he has some. He's got a bit of history of swearing.
Yeah, but he says he didn't say it. We should say that.
Well, no, he says he didn't say that. He said, I did swear, but I called you a poop MP.
Oh, why are we having these debates?
But the Tory, the Valley Mayor of Tees basically said that it's dragged the Stockton's name through the mud, which has actually cleaned up quite a lot.
Oh, fair enough.
Sorry, Stockton.
Very mean.
I had to do it, Stockton.
Can't they check this? Aren't there cameras in Parliament where you can check someone's lips?
Well, they've got the audio of it, and they've got the audio, right? They definitely say it was.
OK, there we go. OK, but, we don't know. Anyway, let's finish this section with the Telegraph now. And the WHO have asked China for more data over the spread of a mystery illness. What's going on, Josh?
Yeah, so WHO asks China for more data on spread of mystery child pneumonia. And essentially you read all of it, and because obviously, remember December 2019, they're like, oh, there's something going on, and now the WHO is going, like, if there's anything going on in China, we want to know about it straight away because we can't trust China.
Yes.
By the way, China has never received any official reprimand from nations or anything for what's happened.
Right.
And any kind of blowback. But it seems like there are, like, these hospital queues with lots of kids queuing up. Now,
so should we be worried about
this? Well,
this?
no, because then at the end it said it's probably a cold. And it's...
Oh, for goodness. Is that just in the last line of the article?
But when you get to... But the point is, because everybody's been locked up and it's the first winter in China that they are allowed out, basically.
But this is going to be the problem, is that anything, the slightest whiff
well, it
of
affects
something
children
else,
much worse than adults, this kind of stuff.
And also, this is the World Health Organization, desperate to keep their jobs and desperate to keep funding coming in with no pandemic this year.
Oh, I see.
But saying that, please send around somebody because I don't trust China.
Well, why not?
Yeah, just let's get someone in there and actually do some testing.
Xenophobia, Josh, that's all that is.
No,
okay,
just
well, that's...
Chinese government.
That's it for part 2. Coming up, are Brexiteers really stupid? Will Nigel be king of the jungle? And what makes a happy graduate? See you in a moment.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this? It's my new teeth. It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with you three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Andrew Doyle. We're going to begin this section with the Daily Mail and Nigel Farage facing scrutiny in the jungle.
Yeah, so this is Nigel Farage on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And he's clashed with this YouTuber called Nella Rose. So it says everyone's talking about Nella Rose. YouTube star has gone head-to-head with Fred Suru. He's the waiter from First Dates. And Nigel Farage exposes divide between her Gen Z fans and viewers who've been tuning into I'm a Celeb for 20 years.
What was the row How about?
So the one with the waiter from First Dates was because he said he was old enough to be her dad,
right?
And her father had passed away, so that was triggering for her. With the one with Nigel Farage, I watched it, and she was just an absolute idiot, and also wouldn't listen, and sort of made all his points.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Well, what's she famous for anyway, exactly?
Well, now she's famous for saying that all black people hate Nigel Farage, which I know for a fact isn't true. I know black people that like Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
So
she's the spokesperson for black people now, is that?
Self-appointed.
Oh, okay. I'm sure that's not racist.
So that's my job. I'm very... How dare
I know. I'm sorry about that, Josh. I mean, what do you make of this? I mean, it's just inane rubbish, let's be honest.
Well, yeah, so there's one name in particular on everyone's lips. Literally, that's the first time. That's because I'm forced to talk about this person. I mean, I haven't watched it yet. I feel a bit bad. I feel like I should be watching it, but...
What, The Jungle Show?
Yeah, The Jungle Show. Are we allowed to say what even it's called? You just
I just don't know what it's called.
I'm a celebrity, get me out of
okay,
it.
right.
But yeah, they're trying to... At least this time they're not saying... Because the story of the last few days has been about how the viewing figures have been down, and well, that's because most people stream it now, I think, is a big part of it as well.
But is she... I mean, to be fair, it's one young woman, right?
Yeah.
She's not reflective of a whole generation, which seems to be the implication.
No, I think she's absolutely reflective of a whole generation. Because they don't listen... they come up with these just ridiculous arguments that...
That's not fair.
And deeply racist arguments, and, saying all black people think this. That's a terrible thing. That's the sort of thing people accuse Nigel Farage of saying.
Yeah.
She's the one saying it. And he was trying to explain to her and trying to tease out her ideas, and she just wasn't having any of it or listening at all.
All right, well, I'm still not going to watch it. All right, we're moving on to the Mirror now, and they're digging up stories from 8 years ago. What's this about? Brexit again?
This is a very, very good story. Brexit, clever people more likely to vote Remain in EU referendum, study shows.
What study is this?
A study that shows that I'm really clever. No, but it does find out, though, luckily, Andrew, that there is a huge amount of overlap. And 36% of Leave voters had a higher cognitive ability than the average Remain voter. So that's you. You're the 36%.
Don't flatter me.
You're
you can't
the 36%. And also our wonderful viewers. You're the 36%.
Our viewers voted in all kinds of ways.
Well, I will say there's a good percentage voted for Brexit.
It's kind of a nothing study. So
well, it basically says that the brighter you are, the more ability you have to filter out lies, which a lot of the campaign for Brexit is facing.
Wait a minute.
This is the University of Bath. So I think if another maybe less systemically woke organisation can commission this study,
You voted for Brexit. You're for Remain. You're a bright guy. This proves how bright you are.
Remain, but I tell you what, I wouldn't vote Remain again. Not after I see how Remainers have acted.
Wait a minute. So they're talking here about one of this guy, Dr. Dawson. He says that this shows that certain people are more people with lower cognitive ability and analytical thinking skills find it harder to detect and discount this type of disinformation, effectively.
Yeah, see also Gaza.
So he's actually making the case that the Leave campaign was full of disinformation, and totally neglects that the Remain campaign was also full of disinformation. So his bias is really influencing this study, right?
Look at you getting really angry there.
It's not anger, it's objective truth, isn't it? I mean, we had misinformation on both sides, and this guy wants... and also, isn't this study in itself a kind of dangerous thing? The idea that, let's study people's intelligence and basically effectively say we want to live in an epistocracy where the most intelligent people get to...
Well, it depends how bright you are, whether you can take that.
It is a kind of eugenics-based argument, isn't it, really? No, that's a bit much. But Leo, don't you see what I mean, though? Like, why even... A thick person's vote counts as much as an intelligent person's vote.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're missing some of the intelligence that goes into it. I mean, they're looking like the Remain campaign did. They were saying but car production will drop by 0.8% over 7 years if you take it to the third quartile. It's like nobody cares, brainiac. It's like I don't want some Belgian nerd telling me what to do and how bendy my cucumbers can be.
I also find the disinformation in the aftermath has been quite astonishing. The idea that anyone voted because of what they saw on a bus. For instance, the idea that nobody knew that leaving the EU would mean leaving the single market, even though that was the first thing said in the biggest debate at Wembley Arena, which was televised and seen more than any other debate. Don't you find this, Josh, that it's a both sides problem?
I think it is a both sides problem, yeah. And I think that what we have seen after the vote was pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we should go back into the EU, as it's happened now.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's an element of there being somewhat of a protest vote as well at the time.
I'm sure. But I mean, this kind of study, the problem I have with this kind of study is it actually feeds into some of the more reactionary things that were said at the time. People started saying that literally we should have like an IQ test before people get to vote. I mean, it's dodgy. It's really dodgy.
Although Brexit voters might want to rejoin Europe now that Europe's gone more right-wing than the UK.
Potentially. All right, let's move on to the Times now. And according to this headline, the happiest students are the ones who don't have ambitions. I can kind of believe this, actually, Leo.
Yeah, so the happiest graduates, they didn't follow the money, apparently.
Yeah.
Graduates of Celtic studies, which is, nonsense, fairies playing fiddles and stuff like that.
You can say that as a Scot.
I can say that as a Scot, which is probably Celtic. Apparently they find greater satisfaction. So Celtic studies or sports science are find the most fulfilment in their lives. But no wonder they're probably entertained by a bit of string. If you study sports science, but Celtic studies aren't real subjects. Do physics or something.
But what it does suggest is that earning more money doesn't necessarily make you happy. I think that's probably right.
Because you said the word ambition there. You can be ambitious and try and achieve the top tier in your field and still be very ambitious, but it's just going to be that field doesn't pay a lot of money.
But I'm all for, studying something for its own sake, the rewards of education,
Well, also studying it because you have a passion for it.
Right, exactly. If I had a passion for Gaelic folklore...
Well, you studied... what did you study?
Renaissance poetry.
Is
that useless, Leo?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, actually, I don't know. I mean, things like poetry and philosophy, I guess I was trying to think of something to make you feel better, but I couldn't.
But they are important. I mean, that's our civilization was built on this. The art is the greatest thing that humankind can aspire to.
Take your word for it.
We got TikTok.
But what I'm interested to hear is, I'm not surprised. Yeah, medicine, maths, these are the things that economics will earn you the most money.
Yeah.
But astronomy's in there. I didn't
really.
Why
As
would
a high earner?
Yeah, it's like the top 5 high earners.
Really?
Why would astronomy earn you so much money?
That's ridiculous. Astrology should earn you more, as far as I can see.
Yeah, if you can tell.
Yeah.
I don't know what the difference. Tell me.
Yes, you do.
Explain the Dutch thing again to me.
OK. Right, we're going to move on now to The Guardian, and this is the bully dogs story. It's back again. Now, what's going on now, Josh?
UK campaigners seek to overturn ban on American XL bully dogs. When we talked about the story before...
We've talked about it before. I mean, they're very dangerous dogs,
I got very dangerous dogs, very dangerous owners. I got a very harsh email from somebody that essentially threatened me at the end of it. I'll be watching you, is what they said.
No, that's because people become like their pets, don't they?
Well, I guess
so if you have a dangerous dog, you become a dangerous dog.
And also maybe they're just a fan if they're going to be watching you.
Yeah, maybe
I think they were watching you, and they were like, I love Leo Kearse, and I'm going to kick your teeth in, Josh Howard.
They sound great.
Yeah.
Is that what he said? He's going to kick your teeth?
No, he just said, I'll be watching you.
Yeah, that's a fan. Exactly, Leo's right. You're just paranoid. That's what this is.
Yeah, you read that.
I'll show you the... Anyway.
Well, but the thing about... No, their argument...
They've met together, they've raised £160,000 to challenge it because it's coming into effect at Christmas where, or at the end of December, where there'll be no selling, it'll be banned to sell, buy, or anything like that.
But what about
the present ones? No, the present ones will need to be muzzled. And there's someone here that says, who's like one of their sort of proponents, going, the problem is that we can't get the muzzles that are big enough for the dogs. Like, I'm sorry, if they don't make muzzles big enough for your dog, that dog should be banned.
No, but banned. They're talking about licensing. Isn't licensing a better solution than banning the dogs?
No, because only the good owners will get licenses. So it's an unworkable system. But some of the complaints, they say, we can't get muzzles, we're in a cost of living crisis and people are really struggling with this. It's like, you've got an XL bully. That must eat like 500 quid's worth of toddlers a day. Like, just, get rid of your dog.
But no, or license it or have more responsible ownership. Any dog can be dangerous because they're all descended from wolves.
No, but these dogs are descended from a particularly dangerous, specific dog itself. That about 90% is it?
Called the tiger.
Called the tiger, yeah. Look, after I got that email, the next day, a dog mauled a child. Another child. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be threatened by that.
OK, let's
ban them.
Let's move. Right, and you're going to get some more emails. Tonight, probably.
Don't care.
But you don't care. OK, The Express now. And what's all this about? Candles. Who's got this one?
So scientists have warned that burning scented candles, vaping and using some cleaning products can cause indoor air pollution. So bad news, ladies. So this can lead on to asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Asthma.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Josh is 6 years old. And also lung cancer. Got a joke about that, Josh?
Lung cancer, oh no.
Anyway, I've said this for years. Like, household products are the nicotine, are the tobacco of the 21st century. They cause, and you see, we've got so many autoimmune disorders because we're surrounded by these noxious chemicals.
But isn't this just a bit killjoy? The idea of not burning candles at Christmas?
It's kill you.
Yeah.
Just open a window.
Yeah, open a window.
Well, I agree with you. It is. We're not factoring in what's going on within our homes. We spend 90% of our time inside.
Yeah.
They haven't talked about farts in here.
I don't think that's going to cause cancer.
How do you know?
Well,
how do you know? Well, you say that so definitively with your degree in poetry or whatever, but you're not a scientist and you don't know if farts can kill you.
Well, if only Lewis Schaefer was here, because he knows everything about
that's
this.
true, actually.
OK, right, let's move on. That is all we've got time for in this part. But coming up, why oil and gas companies think global warming is good, why AI is raising alarm bells, and is Christmas too sexualised? See you in a moment.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers. Kicking off this section now with The Telegraph, another industry on the decline.
This is terrible. Mugging is dying industry because fewer people are carrying cash. It's a strange thing to refer to it as a dying industry.
Yeah, isn't it?
What do you do for a living? I'm a mugger or whatever. Yeah,
but it was fine for Robin Hood.
I guess so, but yeah, he didn't keep it though, did he? He was a good guy.
Oh yeah, okay.
Good old Robin
Hood.
Hood.
Good mugging.
Good mugging.
But these are the bad muggers.
These are the bad muggers. This is from the finance chief Clifford Abrahams. He works for Virgin Executive, and this is essentially an advert for Virgin to say we're about to spend loads of money on AI prevention because that's the future of mugging.
Right, so you don't get mugged or your money stolen, but you do have killer robots that.
Well, you have killer robots who are going to steal your identity because AI is getting so good now at doing like deep fakes and all of that. You're logging into your app and all of that. So that's the future of mugging.
In a way, this is good news. So if all these muggers are turning to cybercrime, it makes the streets safer, right? That's good.
Yeah, well, I mean, thinking about the Fringe, like, you know, the bucket shows where people put money in the bucket.
Yes.
When cash went, that was great because you can't really just put... People would chuck, like, you know, 32p in the bucket because it makes a noise.
Yeah. That's just your show, Leo.
You can't like, put
So how do you get money at the end now, then?
They swipe a card.
You have readers.
No.
Card readers, yeah, it's amazing. And people put a tenner on, no problem, because it doesn't feel like real money.
I got 32p on my machine.
You can still do a 32 pence thing.
If you're really petty and you really want to make the comedian angry.
Right.
But yeah, I wonder how this is affecting begging as well.
No, I think that, but the the people who play guitars and read poetry in tube stations.
Yeah. They now have scanners.
They have the scanners.
Beggars don't have.
Because you can't really say, you know, have something you can plug into a wall and, you know, have a registered address for an account and then ask people to...
Hadn't thought of them. So we need to keep cash.
Keep some cash at hand, yeah.
All right, let's move on.
And drugs.
Thank you, Josh. Okay. Let's move on to The Guardian now. AI, getting so clever, it's getting alarming.
Yes, so you know the whole furore around Sam Altman being deposed as the head of what was it called? OpenAI. Well, apparently it's because OpenAI was working on an advanced model so powerful it alarmed the staff. So it's a new model called Q-Star.
It's called Skynet.
And they went to the board. The staff went to the board and said, "We're really worried about this. It could threaten humanity. And let's see what horror it could do." So Q-Star was able to solve basic maths problems. What?
Like a calculator.
Like a calculator, like a little watch you had on your wrist in the 80s.
Yeah, but that's where it starts. And then it ends.
1 + 1 + 2.
Then you get Super Mario jumping around, and who knows?
Yeah.
Leo, are you not slightly scared of where this could go?
Not really, because the AI, however good it gets, you can break it by pouring a jug of water over the server.
Yeah, well, no, because then it'll invent its own little thing. It'll have, like, electricity that...
It'll invent a little raincoat or something.
No, I mean, in a serious thing, doing maths is when they haven't been taught maths. That's the thing. That's what's amazing, is you sort of say 1 + 1 and it figures out maths.
Yes.
And that's how it solves it.
Yeah.
So that's not good.
I think we do need to... I'm going to keep going on about this because I think we do need to, you know, wake up to this problem.
So jihadis and AI.
And
if they come together...
They will come together, that's the other problem.
They're making some pretty crazy pictures. I see it on my Twitter feed.
There we go. Yeah. Very scary stuff. We're going to move on now to the Daily Mail. Oil and gas giants say climate change is going to bring lots of benefits for oil and gas giants.
Yeah, so climate change is real suddenly. Now all the gas companies are like, it is real, and it's causing global warming and it's going to make us billions and trillions.
How is it going to make them billions? Explain.
Because, OK, let me read out. Oil and gas giants to cash in on the climate crisis they help cause. Melting ice exposes the new petroleum reservoirs in the Arctic worth 77 trillion. So that basically tells you the story.
Yeah.
Now all these shelves have been revealed.
Yes.
And they can get access very easily to all this
why
mineral
should they
wealth.
benefit? If they're the ones that have caused the melting of the ice caps, why should they benefit?
It's the great irony.
It is a great irony.
Yeah.
And people
I
are
hope
not
I use that word.
They're not going to be happy
correctly.
about this. Leo, what do you think?
This is great. This means we can get more oil and gas out of the ground. It's not too much of a worry that the North Pole is melting because it floats on water, so the sea levels don't rise because it's already, you know, buoyant in the water. So there's a, you know,
I don't know if
that is accurate. That's science.
There's going to be no ice come 250.
But if Antarctica melts, then we're in trouble because it's sitting on land, so that'll go into the water.
Is there anything under Antarctica that they
There's
could
land.
Get? There's just land. There's not like oil reserves or...
Well, we don't know.
Buried treasure, something like that.
Norway.
Norway?
It's underneath.
Is that... Well, it is sort of underneath, yeah.
I mean, you know,
yeah.
below, I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, so well done, oil and gas companies.
Yeah, congratulations. On your windfall.
Yeah.
OK, let's move on now to the Daily Mail. Christmas. It's been overly commercialised. Is it now overly sexualised, Lee?
Ho, ho, ho.
Literally.
That's
3 of them.
Ofcom.
Sorry.
So Target are under fire for sexualising Christmas for children with Pride Santa decorations. I think Christmas was already sexualised by Mariah Carey. But basically, this is a mega chain in America. They've got a disabled black Santa. I don't know how he gets down the chimney. They've got a Pride Santa with a flag. And they've also got a trans Pride Christmas Nutcracker figurine who at least can perform their own transition surgery. But this comes on top of Target have been criticised in the past for having tuck-friendly bathing suits for kids and children's books on transgenderism.
Well, that's a bit more serious. But when it comes to sort of like non-binary elves, I mean, aren't elves non-binary anyway? They're pretty androgynous.
Christmas is for the kids as well. I don't know. Yeah, this doesn't seem that much of a. Well, you can still buy a non-Pride Santa if you.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, but this isn't really sexualising, is it? This is politicising. I mean, there is a difference, isn't there? If you have a Santa with a pride flag, that's not sexy.
OK, but then one of them says bears the slogan "Love is love," and "Love is love" is actually an old pedo slang, isn't it?
Well, no, it's also just a.
Yeah, but that's what didn't pedos use that in the 70s?
Well, they probably said a lot of things in the 70s.
I think they're starting to use it again now as it's becoming more like.
Well, it's like a thing that.
I mean, is it? Look, the indoctrination of children is a worry, and you see it in schools with some of the teaching materials and that kind of thing. But this looks like just a few silly toys.
They've got children books saying for 2-year-olds to 8-year-olds called "Bye Bye Binary."
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah, no, that is ridiculous. But Santa Claus in a...
The pride flag itself is to do with sexuality. It's to do with, being lesbian, gay or bisexual. I mean, that's originally what it was anyway. I mean, that's to do with having sex. So I don't see that as really appropriate for children. I think it's great to tell kids, like, look, some kids will have 2 mummies or some kids will have two daddies and, that's fine. But, to have the sort of the books and the flags and the propaganda being, pushed in front of kids.
What about that Eartha Kitt song, Santa Baby? That was sexualising Santa. I mean, she's fantasising.
That was properly sexualising. That was actually sexy.
But you actually approve of that one?
And as you say, Mariah Carey in a sort of Miss Santa outfit.
Yeah.
Cliff Richard.
That's fine.
Did Cliff Richard sexualise
Cliff Richard on roller skates doing mistletoe and wine?
No, he was on roller skates in another video, wasn't it?
He's been in a lot of sexy videos.
Well, he's a sexy man, But, I mean, do you think this is an odd... look, do you know what? Actually, I can't.
I just think. I mean, it's the most ridiculous edition of. As it says here, a good mix of Christmas and Pride.
Yes.
What world are we living in where there needs to be a good mix of Christmas and Pride? It's ridiculous.
I want to see the Ramadan range. Pride range for Ramadan.
And what would be involved in that?
Probably a rooftop somewhere, a pile of stones.
Goodness me. Getting quite dark now, so we're going to move on to this story. This is about popcorn from the Daily Mail. Josh.
Well, when I read this headline, which is adding a bag of popcorn to your daily diet may reduce risk of dementia, I was like, OK, this is quite a boring story. First of all, they're not just saying popcorn, they're actually talking about granola, cereal and whatnot, yes, and it makes a difference to it. But then it just goes off into this mad kind of like black people, white people, like black people who eat loads of cereal, they basically, it worked on them that they didn't get dementia, but it didn't work for white people. It got very sort of racialised very quickly.
OK, well, what's the point of that? Is it just to sort of...
I don't know, it just sort of goes off on, it just goes suddenly into this... Where was it in? It's in the Mail, but it's...
Yeah, it doesn't strike me as a Mail kind of story to make this a racial story, but even so... We always get these stories from now and then. There was one yesterday that we did on Headliners where it talks about certain things are going to kill you, certain things are going to make you live longer. And I get a bit sick of it because often they contradict each other.
Yeah.
It's like we can't possibly keep responding. If we kept changing our diets according to the latest thing that the scientists are saying, we'd never get this right.
There's a story today that apparently now beef protects you from cancer. And for
I thought it killed you. Well, what is it?
You just have to listen to Lewis Schaefer, follow him on Twitter, and he will tell you how to live a very long time. It does say here, but also it says here, but if it... you know what? It could be because he doesn't eat any of this.
What, Lewis?
Yeah, he won't eat any grains at all.
No, that's right.
And they're saying here that if you don't eat that, you're going to get dementia. He could have dementia.
Well, it would explain a lot.
That's what I'm...
Speaking of Lewis, because he always shells his calendar, I'm going to shell my show. Watch my show, the Saturday Night Showdown at 8 p.m. on Saturday.
I love that you had to think about what the title was.
Yeah.
So, to be fair, it's the first show, so it's still bedding in.
And follow me on Twitter to see me get abuse from jihadists all day.
Well, since we've got 30 seconds...
Or if you are a jihadist...
yeah, of course, please.
Leo, since we've got a bit of time, what are you going to be talking about in the show?
We are going to be talking about... I think we're talking about the sexualisation of Christmas.
Yeah.
We're talking about a funny prayer room in Bristol Airport that looks like a bus shelter.
That's amazing, yeah. I've seen that.
I can't remember what else, but it's all about... Oh, we're talking about The Marvels. The Marvels movie that's been a flop at the box office and isn't because it's too woke.
Is that why it's a flop?
And we're going to be talking about...
rubbish.
We're going to be talking about Nigel and his buttocks, which are going to be exposed.
I mean, that in of itself is going to guarantee you a big audience, Leo. So good luck with it. OK, well, that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. But we have got time to have another quick look at Friday's front pages. So the Times is leading with migration figures pile pressure on PM to act. There it is. That's the Telegraph there. Cabinet pressure on Sunak to slash migration. The Guardian revealed how King secretly profits from dead. The Express, failure to halt migration is a slap in the face for the public. The iNews, Cabinet battle on UK's migrant care workers. And finally, the Daily Star, that story about the boffins creating dangerous AI robots. The usual kind of thing from the Star. Those were your front pages. That's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. Thank you very much to my guests, Josh Howie and Leo Kearse. I'm back tomorrow at 11 o'clock with Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer. But if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat right now, do stay tuned, because now it's time for breakfast.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GBNews.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this? It's my new teeth. It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
And a very good evening. Welcome to Farage at 7 o'clock here on GB News. What a day, another big day for political news. Yes, we have had record immigration figures. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? We'll be discussing that, of course. And within that, I have got an exclusive about what I believe is a student visa shocker that you haven't heard from anyone else. That is to be looked forward to later. Now, of course, Nigel is in the jungle. You may well have been watching. More to come tonight. More revelations, it's fair to say. We'll obviously be talking to Ben Leo about that. And to finish the show, this is extraordinary. Is Labour losing the Muslim vote. Is Labour losing the Muslim vote? We'll be discussing that in detail later on. But first up, it's the news with Theo Chakomba.
I'm Theo Chakomba in the